A little dog talk with Brock, what I learned, what I think, what I know, coming down the home stretch of this season. Just 2 games left for these Huskies, and let's just start out here. Period, end of story, like must win. This is a must win Friday night. Like, this is national television, Friday night football. Obviously, you had to travel across the country and play on this Friday night against Rutgers. Now you get a home game. A UCLA team that is much, much improved. I'll get to that and what I think and what I know here in a little bit. But bottom line, this is a game that you have to, if you're Jedd Fisch and you're the program, this is a game you have to find a way to win. You have to get a 6 win. You're going to be, I think, a 20-something point underdog down at Oregon the following week against a team that is kind of built like Penn State, who you just faced and just got beat up physically and emotionally and competitively in every single way. And probably even a little bit hungrier, as hungry as the Nittany Lions were to get right, to flush a bad Ohio State loss, home loss out of their mouth, and a whiteout and all that stuff. Well, guess what? Oregon has lost to you 3 times. Dan Lanning's lost 5 games in 3+ years, and 3 of those were to the University of Washington. So they will be wound and wired and everything else, and we'll deal with that next week in the old Dawg Talk with Brock conversation, because this week's got enough of it. And as I said, and I can't say enough and reinforce that much more, this is a must-win for Jedd Fisch and the Huskies. This is a UCLA team, much like you are, that you are familiar with, that Jedd is familiar with. This is a UCLA team, much like you are, in year 1 of their program. This is a UCLA team who's gotten kicked in the teeth like you have against some really elite opponents. As it turns out, when you look at UCLA, and this is what I've learned, when you look at UCLA, guess what? They had to face Indiana before everyone knew that Indiana was a top 5 team in the country. They had to face them early, got their teeth kicked in. They had to face Oregon. Well, they're the number 1 team in the country. I think we all believe they were going to be pretty good, and they got their teeth kicked in. Then they had to go to Penn State and played Penn State, frankly, a lot tougher and better than Washington did. And oh, by the way, they also had to go to LSU. And what that can do is one of 2 things that can absolutely destroy your season, because you get so physically and mentally and emotionally beat up, or it can callous you and toughen you. So in the second half of your season, if you're UCLA and you get into 1-score games, guess what you find a way to do? Win them, which is what they've done. Their last 4 games have all been 1-score games. I would anticipate this one, frankly, Friday night to be a close, compelling, probably 1-score game. You got 2 pro-style systems, and Jedd Fisch is a former NFL play caller. Eric Bieniemy, an NFL play caller there with Kansas City. And in NFL games, what happens? Usually comes down to the 4th quarter and 1-score games. Well, I have learned that UCLA is battle-tested. I have learned that UCLA is calloused. I have learned that UCLA, after losing a 1-score game to Minnesota, has won their last 3, thus 4 and 5, and in a position in their mind to get to a bowl game when nobody would have thought that after that gauntlet they had been through earlier. So that is really what I have learned about this opponent. I did learn and was reinforced in Happy Valley that the Huskies just physically are not there, that it's JV versus varsity at the line of scrimmage. They made it that way, much like Iowa did in the second half of that game, much like I anticipate Oregon doing a week from now. But this is a little more about the opponent of what I've learned than necessarily Washington, because there really wasn't anything new that I learned out there in Happy Valley. Here's what I think. I think if I was a consultant flown into or walked into Jedd Fisch's office and Jedd were to say to me, what do you think? What do you think I should do at quarterback? You know, I sit Will Rogers down in the second half, 28-0, just a bloodbath there, and give Damon Williams the second half and get to evaluate and watch all of that tape and get to see him run around and do some things. If Jedd Fisch asked me, what do you think? Should I play Will Rogers Friday night, or should I go with the true freshman? I think I would come to the same answer that Jedd did. I think Will Rogers should get the start. I think Will Rogers, and this isn't any appreciation or ribbon for participation, that he's done neat things and he's courageous and all that. I think he gives you the best chance to win this game. And did I mention to you, this is a must-win game. You've got to get to a bowl game. You've got to continue your sales pitch. You got to continue to market your program. You got to get to and have the exposure of a bowl game. And you got to get those practices in for your young personnel and players. And I think Will Rogers in this matchup, this matchup with UCLA gives you the best chance to win because UCLA defensively is very similar to USC. And right now, Will Rogers is undefeated at home. Will Rogers, to me, has earned the right to get this start and gives you the best chance to win because he knows how to handle all these simulated pressures. He knows how to handle a exotic third down NFL blitzing package because he just did it against USC and did it really well. Will Rogers knows where pressure is coming from and should be able to get the ball out of his hand because there will be some pressure. This front seven of UCLA is pretty good, probably better, frankly, than USC's front seven, and the demands that are going to be put on that QB position are going to be real. So I think Will Rogers gives them the best chance to win. I think Jed Fish believes that. I think his staff believes that, and I think that's why he's going to be starting Friday night in did I mention it? A must-win game for Washington. Lastly, I know that this will be scrappy. I know that this will be tough. I know, as I said to you earlier, that this will feel like an NFL game. And unlike, unfortunately, Lumen Field, I know that 19 wins in a row matter. That when those Huskies put on their gear in the locker room, when they're in that team meeting room, they walk down that same tunnel that I walked onto the field, there is confidence that comes from winning in this building and believing that you can win. I think that was probably hard pressed to build up to that confidence level in Happy Valley. I don't think they walked onto that field in front of 100,000 in that whiteout and thought, oh, yeah, we're going to win this game. I think Friday night they're going to walk through that and out that tunnel and think, we're going to win this game, and we're going to find a way to win it because that's what we've done all season long. It's a pretty good competition, including USC. And I know that those seniors, and I know those guys don't want to go out with a losing season. Coming off all the success of a year ago, playing for a national championship, Cam Fabiculanen and Carson Bruner and some of the returning starters on that defense. No, like, hey, man, this is our chance to get to a bowl game. And after playing in the national title is a bowl game consolation prize in some ways, but you do not want to go out a loser. You do not want to go out with a losing record, and you want to go out and finish what you started, and that is an undefeated season in Husky Stadium. This should be a good one. This should be a competitive one. This should be some compelling theater with NFL coaches on both sides of the ball calling these plays. And more than likely, Ethan Garber's a little bit like Will Rogers, the quarterback for UCLA. Distributor, facilitator, not overly talented, but knows how to play the game. Ultimately, which of these two kind of veteran quarterbacks makes the fewest mistakes and happens to make a play or two when it really matters in the fourth quarter will ultimately win this game. And for the fifth time, a must-win game for Washington.